So for the last few days, we've been talking about the customary system. Today we are moving on to the metric system. In my opinion, the metric system is a little easier to work with. The conversions are going to be a lot easier. So we're not going to be converting today. We're just learning some of the terminology. We're just going to learn what they're called today. And we're going to do some measuring and some estimating, things like that. So today is focusing on a new system, which is the metric system. And we're just going to be learning some of the terminology and the units. We're not going to be converting today. Here are all the units of length in the metric system. The first one is called the millimeter, and we abbreviate it with mm. And it's approximately the thickness of a dime. Now the benchmark that you'll see on the far side, I do want you to copy those down. However, you do not have to have those memorized. That's just for a reference so you kind of know how big it is. So a millimeter is about the thickness of a dime, so very small, and it's approximately 4/100ths of an inch. So that's the smallest one we'll talk about. Then we move up to a centimeter, which is 10 millimeters. And that's about half the width of a penny. So if you look at a penny, about halfway across it is 1 centimeter. And it's approximately 4/10ths of an inch. Then we have 1 meter, which would be kind of close to what we would deal with a yard. It's 100 centimeters, and it's about the width of a doorway, and it's approximately 1.1 yards. So it's a little smaller than a yard. And then the biggest one we have is a kilometer, which the easiest comparison would be to a mile, and it's 6 city blocks. If you remember, the mile was 10 city blocks. The kilometer is only 6 city blocks, and it's only 6/10ths of a mile. So it is quite a bit smaller than a mile. It's only about half the size, maybe a little more than the mile. For this first example, all we're going to do is state which metric unit of length we would use to measure it. We're not actually going to measure any of these. We're not going to predict them. All I want to know is, looking at it, thinking about it, which of these four would you use: a millimeter, centimeter, meter, or a kilometer? So looking at the first one, letter A, the thickness of your pencil's eraser. It's bigger, obviously, than the thickness of a dime. However, it's not quite as wide as a penny. So I would probably say for this one, the millimeter would be the best option there because it's smaller, so you can use smaller units to measure it. Looking at the next one, it's the height of your school. Now this one, we're obviously not going to want to use millimeters, even centimeters, but a kilometer, maybe, a half mile or so, that's way too long to measure the height of your school. So I'd probably say the meter is going to be the best option for this one. The next one is the length of the Missouri River. Now, clearly, millimeter, centimeter, they're out. A meter, that's going to be you're going to have a lot of meters if you look at that. So this one, we're going to look at the kilometer for doing the Missouri River because it's a long river. So you're going to want to look at having a lot of length in there. And the last one is the width of a skateboard. You could probably go with a meter, but I think probably the best one for the width of a skateboard is going to be centimeters. Millimeter, way too small. Kilometer, obviously way too big. A meter is too big, but you could say it's 1/10 of a meter or whatever it may be. But I would probably say the centimeter is going to be your best option for the width of the skateboard. This next piece, we're going to be estimating some lengths of things. So looking at these lengths, we're going to be looking at estimating the length of the bee, the length of the blueberry. And so we're going to be looking at what we think these lengths would be. Now, clearly, you're not going to be able to have these on your paper. I'm just going to have you kind of follow along with me and kind of see what I do as we're going through this so that you get an idea of what I did. Again, it's the same measurement we did with inches and things the other day. This time we're using meters and centimeters and millimeters instead of inches. So for the first one, for the bee, if you look at when the ruler appears, when you're looking at both those lines and where they go up, it's approximately 1.6 centimeters. If you count the millimeters, that's going to be 16 millimeters or 1.6 centimeters. And so you want to make sure on your ruler you're using the centimeter end of that. And then if we continue along and look at the blueberry, when we look at it, it's going to continue over, and we're going to be looking at how long it is. And so when the lines go up, we'll be looking at its length, and as you can see, it's going to be close to what the bee was. It's a little over 1. Now, obviously, my lines aren't exactly where they need to be, but it's approximately at 1.4, since it's kind of in between the things there. 1.3, 1.4 is going to be okay. And there's your homework, page 434, 7 through 30 all. So have that turned in. Again, I won't see you in class because you guys have the field trip you're going on, but make sure to have that all completed and finished and turned in, and then I will have a worksheet for you to be handed out tomorrow.